A dense jungle, endless rain, the sound of helicopters chopping through the sky, and a war that tore a superpower's soul apart. The Vietnam War wasn't just a battle in the East. It was a turning point for the West. For the first time, America, the beacon of democracy, found itself questioning everything, especially its foreign policy. After World War II, the United States emerged as a global superpower. Its foreign policy was straightforward, contained communism at all costs. This was the age of the Truman Doctrine, which promised to support any nation resisting communism. America intervened globally, believing it had a moral responsibility to protect the free world. This doctrine shaped the Marshall Plan, NATO, and interventions in Greece, Korea, and beyond. But Vietnam changed everything. Vietnam had been under French colonial rule for decades. But after World War II, the Vietnamese people, led by Ho Chi Minh, demanded independence. France resisted, and war erupted. After a humiliating French defeat at Dien Bien Phu in 1954, Vietnam was split into two at the Geneva Conference: the Communist North Vietnam and anti-communist South Vietnam. The U.S., fearing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, the infamous domino theory, stepped in to support the South. At first it sent advisors, but soon it sent troops. From 1965, U.S. troop presence surged. Over 2.7 million Americans would eventually serve in Vietnam. But the enemy, the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army, were elusive. They knew the jungles. They had the people's support, and they were willing to die for their cause. Meanwhile, American soldiers were dying by the thousands in unfamiliar terrain for unclear objectives. Over 58,000 U.S. troops died, and more than 3 million Vietnamese, soldiers and civilians, lost their lives. America watched on television as villages burned, as children ran screaming from napalm, and as soldiers returned home, broken. President Nixon introduced a new policy: Vietnamization, training South Vietnamese forces to take over so U.S. troops could leave. But more than that, he signaled a deeper shift: the Nixon Doctrine. This doctrine stated that while America would still aid allies, it wouldn't send troops to fight their wars. This marked a massive pivot. The U.S. would no longer be the world's policeman. Covert operations, diplomacy, and proxy wars replaced direct intervention. The U.S. also re-established relations with China, a communist power, to counter the Soviet Union. This balancing act reshaped the Cold War landscape. In April 1975, Saigon fell. North Vietnamese tanks rolled through the city. The last Americans fled by helicopter. The war was over, and with it, the era of idealistic American interventionism died too. The trauma of Vietnam haunted U.S. policy for decades. No president wanted to get stuck in another Vietnam. This led to what many called the Vietnam Syndrome, a national reluctance to engage in foreign conflicts unless absolutely necessary. Future interventions, like in the Gulf War, Kosovo, and even Afghanistan, were debated through the lens of Vietnam. Massive public opposition became a new political reality. The U.S. began focusing more on air power, drone warfare, and alliances rather than boots on the ground. It also marked a shift in media power, as nightly news began influencing policy and public sentiment more than ever before. The Vietnam War wasn't just about battles and borders. It was about trust, broken trust between a government and its people. And it was about transformation. A foreign policy that once aimed to shape the world, now reshaped by the cost of war. The scars are still visible in memorials and politics, and in the hearts of those who lived through it. What do you think? Did the Vietnam War humble a superpower? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more history that still shapes our world.